to the Metal Bob Live podcast. I am your host, Metal Bob. Today's show is brought to you by Legend Picks and also artist Jeremiah Kalleck. You can find links to our sponsors at the Metal Bob Live website. There you can also find links to the latest Metal Bob gear, including shirts, hoodies, and more. On today's show, I had the honor of speaking with producer and former LA Guns bassist Adam Hamilton. We discuss Adam's success as a producer, his time in LA Guns, William Shatner, and more. So sit back, have a listen, and enjoy the show. Thank you. Hello, Adam.
Hey, Bobby.
How you doing, brother? Thank you so much for your time tonight.
Of course, man. My pleasure. How you doing?
Doing really good.
Right on. Where are you located?
I am in Columbia, Missouri.
Nice. Is it cold there yet?
It's been 50s. So it's not too bad.
Yeah, that's not too bad.
Not at all.
Very nice. So what's cooking?
Man, buddy, not much, man. Just looking forward to this little chat with you and just trying to enjoy the evening.
Yeah, man. There you go. Very nice.
So you've been keeping yourself busy?
Oh, yeah. I'm juggling a lot of projects right now at the moment. But that's what I do, man. And do a lot of sessions, producing a couple of records, do a lot of music for TV and film. And so I spend my days in the studio now, and that's about it. No more road life.
No more road life. Do you ever miss it,
Yeah. Though? Well, I really kind of felt like I got my fill of it. Didn't really miss it. And then a couple of years ago, I was kind of having a little bit of like, man, that sure was fun. And I got to go back out with LA Guns for a couple of months and go to do a European tour with them as rhythm guitarist. So that was fun. And I got reminded of how much fun it was, but I also got reminded of like, I don't need to do that anymore.
Absolutely. So you're originally you're from Shreveport, is that correct, Louisiana?
Yeah. Yep. Originally, I was born there. Yep.
Yeah, and I know you had spent some time down in Austin doing some gigging, and you ended up out in L.A. What brought you there?
Well, when I was in Austin, I was playing in a band down on 6th Street in a bar one night, and in walked Cece from Poison. They were in town on their Flesh and Blood tour, and he was watching one of the bands play, and I went up and chatted with him, and he was really nice, and we kind of hit it off. And so he came up and saw my band, and he got up and jammed with us. And so roundabout, it turns out he invited me to the show the next night. We went to the show, and he said, man, I'm about to quit Poison. And this was when they were like in 92 or something. So they had like the #1 record, and they were huge, and he was just miserable, And he said, I want to start a solo band, and I want you to be my drummer. I said, all right, well, I would love that because, like any musician, you dream about your big break coming. And I'm like, well, here it is. Finally, it's come true. So we swapped numbers, and we made a plan to chat soon. And then I didn't hear from him for a long time. And I tried to call him and got his answer machine and never heard from him. And I tried him back a couple times, and I just got so bummed out. And I thought, well, all right, well, I guess, no big deal. Kind of got over my disappointment of it. And then almost a year to the day, I get a call in the middle of the night, and it's him. And he says, yeah, I just quit the band. And I just watched him on the MTV award show, and it was that big debacle with him, and he had dyed his hair pink, and he was a little messed up, and he started playing the wrong song, and the whole band train wrecked, and you could tell it was kind of the end.
Right.
But he's like, yeah, so he's like, I want you to come out to LA and be my drummer, and, I'm going to fly you out. And that was it. And that's what brought me out to LA, and I flew out to play with him.
Awesome. So you speaking of drumming, I know you play the drums, you're a guitar player, bass, you keyboard, you're quite multi-talented. Is any of those instruments your main instrument or your favorite instrument?
Well, I don't know if I would say drums are my favorite, but that was my main instrument. That was what I always played. And then as a drummer along the way, you kind of go, man, I want to write some music. And so you kind of pick up the guitar and start learning a few chords. And I just kind of got a little bored and wanted to do something else. So I kind of picked the guitar up a little bit, but I wouldn't say I'm nowhere as proficient with string instruments as I am on drums. Drums is definitely my strongest, but I enjoy all of the, I enjoy playing everything, which is fun because usually on a lot of records I get to do a little bit of all of it. So it's I get to kind of have a good time, switching around.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think I want to say, when was it you joined LA Guns? It was probably what, 2006? Does
Yep.
that sound about right?
No, 2002.
Oh, was it 2002? Okay.
Uh-huh.
So
Yeah, and then I played with them for about 7 years,
okay.
maybe 7-8 years.
All right. Well, I want to say it was probably 2006, maybe, when because me and you've met a few times. I know we probably wouldn't know this because it's been so long ago, but I had a chance to meet you, and a guy named John Nielsen was opening
John
up
Nielsen,
at the time.
man.
Yeah, and I know you'd
so talented.
done some producing for John, and some writing with him, and
absolutely,
very good guy, man. Yeah, I had him on a while back, and he's like, you ought to really try to get at him. I said, yeah, I think I'm going to, man. Because we had talked a little bit about you, and
yeah, I love John, man. What an amazing experience making a record with him. He's one of those guys that's just he's just got the gift, man. He could sit down and write a song in 2 seconds, and you'd be like, it could be the best thing you've ever heard.
Yeah, he's great.
Crazy.
I was really fortunate to get to meet him on that tour with you back then, and we've stayed in touch ever since. We're going on about 20 years now. I've known John, and we've always stayed in touch. It's been
that's great, man.
Been pretty cool, man.
Fantastic.
I follow everything he does, and
nice.
I'd seen, LA Guns has always been like my band too. So, it's like, I've seen LA Guns 50 times. I mean, that's quite a few times if you ask me, but,
wow. That's crazy, man.
But yeah, I remember meeting you, and I actually met you at a show in Davenport, and then it was either the following night or the night after, we went to Peoria, and I remember you getting up playing drums with John. I think you guys might have done Sweet Home Alabama or something like that. But
yeah, we used to have fun doing that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we talked a little bit. Actually, there was that show when you guys did with the Bullet Boys in Black and Blue. I don't know if you remember that or not. Peoria.
Oh man, the ill-fated tour with the Bullet Boys, right?
Yeah. We get a kick out of that every time we bring that up. But
yeah. Oh yeah, man, that was an interesting couple of days.
Yeah, and that night in Peoria, I think, is when all the excitement happened. But we won't talk about it.
Is that where it was, Peoria, Illinois?
Yeah. Yeah.
I wondered. I was thinking about that the other night, and I couldn't remember where that all went down. I remember we played like 1 or 2 shows, and then some big drama happened, and that was that, and they were gone.
Yeah.
But that's funny, man. Funny.
Yeah. So hey, man, let's talk a little bit about. I want to get back to LA Guns in a little bit because I have some questions for you. But I want to get back to some of the producing. So, how and when did you know that producing is what you wanted to do?
Well, when I was a kid, I got one of those little 4-tracks way before Pro Tools, the little cassettes, when I was like 12 or 13. And I just loved recording my bands that I would play with, or I'd like bring my buddies over and record them. So it started out just, loving just the art of recording music and learning how to do it and learning how to make sounds and learning how to put a song together on tape. And then I slowly started to like be the bossy guy who's like, hey man, try this, playing it like this. Why don't you try maybe this? Sing up high. I had all these ideas, and little did I realize that essentially what I was doing was just, acting as a producer for the band. So I just kind of it was something I just loved when I was little. I always said that my music was like two-sided. There was getting up and playing for people, and then there was writing songs and playing in the studio, and I always loved them equally. But I realized that at some point I was probably going to veer off and just want to do the studio full time. And then about maybe in my 20s, I started to become interested in the possibility of getting into doing music for TV and film. So I'm like, all right, so that's an even more of a reason to kind of veer off the road, have a family, and then get more into the studio and produce and do music for TV and film. And I got hooked up the year I moved out here with a connection to start doing that. And so that I forgot your initial question, but essentially I just kind of, I don't know, man. I just kind of figured out that was something that I enjoyed doing. Kind of like, it's like a directing the movie, helping people figure out what's the best role, and figure out the best line and the way the set list, and just kind of helping make the record sound great. I just love all the nuts and bolts that go into it. I just kind of, it really wasn't ever, it was just something I just started doing when I was a kid.
Absolutely. Now you got one coming out here shortly that you produced, Missing Persons, right, with Dale Blasio?
Yeah, that actually came out this past year.
Okay. Right on. Was that your latest thing you've done, or you got something?
The last thing we did was a William Shatner blues record, and it came out a couple of weeks ago, and it went to #1 on the Billboard Blues chart.
Nice.
So we're pretty excited about that.
Yeah, that's well, I was going to ask you about that too, and I know that you guys you've had quite a bit of success with William Shatner. How did you guys hook up, man?
When it's still in LA Guns, about towards the end of my first run with them, I met a guy. His name was Brian Pereira, who the president of Cleopatra Records.
Okay.
And he said, "Hey, man, I hear you produce. I'd like we should do some work together." And I said, "Yeah, man, I would love that." So he and I kind of hit it off and started hanging out and chatting. And he threw me a project to produce a song for Great White, and it turned out really good. And he really liked it. And he goes, "Man, this is fantastic. I'm gonna, if while you're here on off the road, I'd like to get you to work on other things." And so I always wanted to try to get into the music business and produce, but it's a tough business to crack into, and it just sometimes when something's meant to happen, it just happens without you even trying. And that's kind of how I got into it, and that's how I met Shatner, was through Brian at Cleopatra. I had been working for those guys for about 10 years, and he said, "Hey, man, he likes to do a lot of interesting records, and I mean, he's had me do everything from Berlin to David Hasselhoff to William Shatner to Missing Persons to Vanilla Ice, and, just anything and everything. He likes to mix it up and do a lot of different types of releases." And so he goes, "Hey, man, I was in talking with William Shatner about doing a record. Would you be interested in doing it?" I'm like, "Of course I would. This would be amazing." And I loved that William Shatner record that he did years ago with Dick Bolts called Has Been. And we ended up getting a meeting and went and sat down with him, and he was really cool. And he goes, I love making music, but I'm not a musician, and I really don't know what I'm doing. But I think I have a good time doing it, and people seem to think it's fun, and the people that like it. And so we just hit it off, and he said, "How about we try a song and see how it goes?" And we recorded one, and it ended up turning out great. So he said, "Yeah, let's do the whole record." So now we've done 3. This is the third one we've done together. So
awesome.
Since 2011, that was when the first one was.
Yeah, that was Seeking Major Tom, correct?
Yeah, and that one went to #1 on the Billboard Heat Seekers chart too. So we've had a #1, 2 #1s, and a #2.
That's great.
So that's a pretty good record with Mr. Shatner.
Yeah, there was quite a cast on that album, if I remember right. You had Peter Frampton and man, the list goes on and on. There was a ton of guys.
Oh my God, yeah, Sheryl Crow and Lyle Lovett, Michael Schenker.
Yeah.
God, we had Dave Davies from the Kinks. We had, it was crazy. One of the guys from the Strokes. It was just unbelievable. That was pretty wild.
That's great.
And Steve Howe from Asia, Yes, was on there. He was a little mad at me because I didn't use his part, but he wrote something in Rolling Stone last month. They asked him about that William Shatner record. They said, "You played with William Shatner once," and he goes, "Yeah, those guys." He was angry at William Shatner because William Shatner didn't use his part on the record, but they hired him and he turned in his part. But unfortunately, it wasn't William Shatner's. It wasn't William Shatner. I was the producer. They sent me this track, and his track was terrible, and I wasn't going to let it go on there because my name's going on there. If my name's going to go on there, I got to be quality control. And Steve Howe's a legend, but if a legend doesn't play something that sounds great, then I'm not going to leave it like sounding crap and make him look bad, and make me look bad, and make William Shatner look bad. So I took an executive decision and left it off there, and we had already had a guitar for the song. We were just going to add his part to it. We just didn't add it to it. But that's what happens sometimes. Listen, if I turn in a part on a record and it doesn't make the cut, that's sometimes scenes don't make the movie.
Absolutely. Did you end up playing any instruments on that album?
Oh yeah, I played almost every song. I played drums on everything except for one that Carmine Appice played on. I played bass on almost everything. Played some guitar and some keyboards. I even sang some background vocals. I put my fingerprint all over it, unfortunately.
That's great, man. That's awesome. Well, I'm glad it's working out for you, man. Congratulations, buddy.
No, thank you, man. Well, I'm very blessed. I have a ball every day. I wake up and go out to the studio and get to do exactly what I love doing the most in this world.
That's great, man. So you stay pretty busy with television too, from what I understand.
Yeah. I got into that about like 1994 when I was out here and started doing all sorts of stuff. I've done about 12 different movies, had songs in 12 different movies, over 100 different TV shows, a bunch of commercials and video games, anything and everything.
Yeah, and we're talking big name TV shows too. I mean, like I know you did Family Jewels, Family Guy. I mean, you did some stuff for the Osbournes. I mean,
yeah, I've had songs in The Simpsons,
yeah.
Law and Order, you name it. Every Law and Order on TV had stuff from. I had a song in The Bourne Identity with Matt Damon.
Yeah,
songs like all sorts of movies and stuff. But yeah, man, it's definitely been one of those. I've gotten to have one of those careers so far where I kind of like, all right, I don't know what I'm doing today, but I know it's going to be interesting and cool, and I get to wear a bunch of different hats and work in a lot of different fields. Because I wasn't always just a rock guy, even though I played in LA Guns, and I love rock and roll. I love different kinds of music. I love classical music as much as I do rock and roll. I love jazz and I love big band, and to get to work in all sorts of genres is what one of my heroes as a producer is Quincy Jones. And
nice.
Quincy Jones used to say, musicians need to work in every different field. They don't need to be pigeonholed into one thing. If you enjoy different kinds of music, you ought to be allowed to work in that. And I've been allowed to do that, which is quite a blessing. So
right on. So as a producer, though, do you find one genre of music harder to produce than the others, or are they all kind of one and the same when it comes right down to it?
Well, I don't play jazz, so if I were to make a jazz record, I would pretty much be out of my element. And classical music, you have to really have a lot of training and music theory, and so I pretty much stick to, even though I've gotten to work in a lot of different genres, it still kind of doesn't go too far out of the rock, pop, that kind of stuff, But yeah, I kind of stay within my wheelhouse, and I definitely know when to say this is something that is not my thing, and it would be better served bringing somebody else in. But I'll certainly give something a shot, but I certainly know when to bring in the right people for the right job.
Absolutely. So, hey, a question. So back to LA Guns for a minute. So
yeah.
You guys were on tour, and Mick Brown from Dokken just kind of got up and left one day, and you played drums for Dokken for how many shows did you do with those guys?
That was just one.
Just the one.
That was just one.
Okay.
The tour was gonna end in LA on a Friday night, and we played in Tucson that Thursday night. And I think he got home to his place, and I heard he had all sorts of stuff that happened. He wasn't feeling good, and his power had been out. And when he just said, "I'm done. I'm not doing the rest of the shows." And Bobby Blatzer said, "Well, I'll do it." And I said, I kind of pulled Don Dokken aside, and I said, "I'm going to throw him under the bus, but I don't think it's a good idea having him do that. I think he thinks he's going to be able to pull the show off. But I mean, I'm a drummer as well, and I knew the whole show. I mean, I literally could tell you every song. I mean, I literally knew the whole show. I knew the song to song, every drum part. And so we had a little makeshift rehearse behind the tour buses, and he goes, "Yeah, man, I think you can do it." And we did it, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I bet that was
It's
fun,
it's
man.
floating around. It's floating around YouTube somewhere. A real bad copy of it.
Well,
Real,
have to check that out.
a real. Yeah, I'll have to send you a link to it. There's a real grainy video of it that's pretty funny.
That's great. Yeah, I was reading a little bit about some of the things that you've been involved with, and I just kind of happened to run across that, and I never knew that you did that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was definitely a pretty cool line on the resume, and it was really fun because I think a lot of the other bands they didn't really knew I played. They knew me as a bass player for LA Guns, so they didn't know I played drums. So when they saw me up there doing it, they were like, "What?" And then by the halfway through the show, they were all out there jamming and standing on the side of the stage, cheering me on, and it ended up being really cool. And Tracy got up and sat in with us, and all sorts of people got out there and sang. It was a fun night, and it ended up being the end of the tour, but it was a really cool way to end the tour. You know, getting to close out the show with Doc and they headlined, and that was it.
Great. That's awesome, man. Thank you for sharing that.
Oh, of course, man.
So, so LA Guns again, man. So you did, I think you recorded a couple records with them, and I know you wrote on some of the stuff.
Yep.
Even after you were out of the band, you were doing some of the writing with those guys, correct? Like Hollywood Forever, I believe, and
yeah, I wrote a couple of songs for that. And co-wrote one with a friend of mine for it. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I really.
And I didn't work on Missing Piece. I worked on The Devil You Know, just doing some recording Phil, some of his vocals, and I'm working on the new one with him. I'm playing drums and recording and mixing the new one for him.
Oh man, I can't wait. They've been putting out just some killer stuff, man.
Yeah, man. I mean, when they sent me I let you down, and I'm like, this is the best thing I think LA Guns has ever written. I mean, this is as good as anything from their heyday. And I said, I want to play on this, and it turned out where I got to play drums on it and mix it. So that to me was like, to see that those guys write something that good this many years later, like that's still one of my favorite songs, and not just LA Gun songs. I think that's one of my favorite songs. It's fantastic. I was a little jealous that I didn't write on it. But I was very, very thankful to get to be a part of it in any way that I could.
Yeah, I remember when they debuted that on social media, and I was like, man, I'm listening. It's just so eerie when it comes out, man, and just and Phil's vocal on that is just smoking, man. The whole thing is like you said, it's amazing, man.
Yeah, I mean, it just captured the sound and feeling of the world in like isolation and pandemic mode, you know, when it first hit, and we were all doing this from our own place and talking to one another going, God, what is going on in this world? And it just captured that, man. I don't know. It just has a loneliness. It has something about it that's just gives me chills when I listen to it.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I agree 100%, man. I can't wait for all the new stuff to come out, man, because I know it's going to be smoking. I know. There's
another song on it that I did help write with them that's along those lines that I'm real proud of. That's called I can't even think of what the title is now. It just got changed to a new title. But I think it's going to be really good, and I think the whole record's great. Yeah. It's going to be fantastic. We just have to do the vocals, and then I mix, and that's it.
Nice. Do you have any inside info for me on like maybe when it might come out, or is that still top secret or what?
I don't know. I don't know. One of the things that's kind of been holding it up was we're doing this record with Michael Sweet, me and Tracy Guns and Michael Sweet, called Sunbomb.
Oh, nice.
And it's like it sounds like an old school metal record, and we've needed to finish that before we really get finished on the other ones. And I'm just finishing my last mixes of that, so I think we're going to start really going full force. But they still have to write lyrics on some of the songs, and that's what's taken them a little bit of time. So I don't know. I mean, hopefully next year it'll be out. Is the best I could say.
Okay. Well, yeah, and you mentioned Michael Sweet. You talk about Striper. That's another band that's just been putting out killer records the last few years.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
oh man, Michael is. Wait till you hear what he did on this stuff, man. It's just incredible, man.
Absolutely. Him and Lynch did some good stuff too there for a while.
Yeah, I remember hearing those guys working together.
Yeah. So yeah, it's amazing. All these years later, man, some of the music that still comes from these guys, man, it's amazing. It's
Yep,
just,
yep,
I'm
absolutely.
I'm really glad to hear that you're still involved there too, man. That's awesome.
Oh man, me too. Yeah, I kind of was phasing myself out a little bit, not purposefully, but as time was going on, I was just working with them a little bit less and less. Uh, not really planned, but I just kind of slowly got roped back in, and I love it. It's
Absolutely.
just been awesome.
Yeah. So I know John Nielsen. He's working on some new stuff, man. Are you involved in any of that?
No, I haven't. I haven't talked to John or heard anything from him in a while. I was actually listening to that record he and I did the other day, and I still put it on, and I go, "This is a perfect record, man. What a talented songwriter." I
Yeah.
mean, he is just every song. It's one of those few records I own where I listen to it, and it really absurd. Completely aside from the fact that I worked on it. I mean, I didn't write a bit of it. That's all. It's all him. Um, but every song on it from top to bottom is great. Not a filler song, and not even a B song. Everything is A plus.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember. After you guys were on that tour together there for a while, and John was doing the acoustic thing, opening up for you guys, and I'd got to know John a little bit because went to a few of the shows, and like he said, he was give me your address, man. He said, I'll hook you up. I'm like, all right, man, cool, and I didn't think nothing of it, man. One day, I get this package in the mail from John. It's if by chance in this padded envelope, and I'm like, oh yeah, he remembered, man. And I
Perfect.
still have that one
Beautiful.
too, man. It's awesome.
Yeah, it really is a great record, man.
Yeah,
Fantastic record.
absolutely, man. Heck yeah, dude. So, brother, man, do you got anything you want to promote? Why I got you on the air? You got a website people can find you at, or?
Yeah, that I'm easy to find. I'm on all the social media. Just look for me, Adam Hamilton One. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Facebook and Instagram, and you can even send me. You can get a hold of me at Palm Ranch Studios too, my website. But I don't even use that too much now with social media. We don't even really go on websites. You don't even really need websites anymore. I haven't looked on my website in forever. But
Wow,
yeah, man, I'm just working away, just juggling all the projects right now. But loving it all.
that's awesome, man. That's really cool that you're doing what you love to do, man. That's great.
Yeah, I feel very blessed, man.
Absolutely, man. I know there's an LA Guns live stream concert next Saturday too, man.
Yep,
Out of
yep,
Las
uh,
Vegas. I'll be tuning into that.
yep. That's going to be cool. I was helping them with that, put that together, and got them their editor for it to make to do promos and stuff. And I was writing up questions for Eddie Trunk to ask him, because there's going to be like this question and answer part of it. And they were saying, well, what kind of questions you want to answer them? I'm like, well, I'm a fan of LA Guns as well as being a part of the band and working with them. When I was a kid, like, I want to ask you all the questions that I always wondered about. So I wrote down like 20 questions that I always were like, tell me about this when you were making this record, and what was going on, and where was it in LA, and where were you living, and what kind of car were you driving? I just wanted to know all the nuts and bolts about who those guys were and what they were doing when they were making this music, Because to me, that all that goes into the, like, you put your heart and soul in the music. And as a kid, we never really saw anything other than a couple of articles in the rock magazines. Like, I wanted to know what these dudes are doing day to day. And so I asked all sorts of questions like that. My 14-year-old fan side came out, so it's gonna be fun.
Cool, man. And real quick too, I didn't ask you, but I mean, originally, how did you end up getting into LA Guns originally?
I had become friends with this musician. His name is Muddy out here, Mark Dutton,
Okay.
and Muddy has played with everybody. He played with Chris Robinson from the Black Crowes. He was in a band called Burning Tree back in the day that had a deal, and it never really broke big, but they were real popular. And we got to know each other because he was a producer with a publishing company I was signed to. and we became friends. And then he started producing records, and he brought me in on a record that he was producing by this crazy band called Brian Jonestown Massacre, and had me play on their record, and we just hit it off. And then Muddy then went on to be the bass player in LA Guns. He took the bass player's part when they reformed.
Right, I
and,
remember.
And Kelly Nichols didn't want to do it, so Muddy joined. And then when Muddy was going to do another band with Gilby Clarke, he's like, "Hey man, I think I'm going to peel off this gig. Would you be interested in playing bass for him?" And I said, "Yeah," because my band had gone through all sorts of. I was playing drums with this band, and we had gotten signed and dropped and signed and put out a record and dropped, and just couldn't really get it going. And I just was burnt out on playing drums, and I'm like, yeah, I was actually playing bass with this punk band just for fun. And it just was perfect timing. And he got me the gig with those guys, and that's how I got in. He just said, "Hey, don't audition anybody else. I've got the bass player," and they set me up an audition, and that was that.
Man, it sounds like you got some action going on over there, man.
Yeah, well, I'm sitting outside, out in the back, and it's LA craziness.
That's awesome, man. But no, man,
never a dull moment out here.
I bet, man. That's awesome. Well, buddy, man, I really appreciate your time tonight, man. I won't keep you. Thank you so much, Adam, for doing this.
My pleasure, Bobby. Anytime, man. Keep me posted. Let me know what's going on.
Absolutely, man. I will, and hopefully in the future I can have you back on. That'd be great, man.
I'd love it, brother. Have a great night.
You take care of yourself. Have a great holiday next week. Best to you and yours, brother.
You too, man. You too. Stay well.
All right, buddy. Take care. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.
That concludes today's episode of the Metal Bob Live podcast. We really appreciate your support. Thank you for listening. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and also check out our YouTube channel and subscribe. Have a great rest of your holiday weekend. Metal Bob out.